Remember, 2 days ago, the Spanish authorities said they would be considering looking at this as a form of sexual assault. And here is the woman, and check the video out, you will see her smiling, joking, reenacting the kiss and chanting with her teammates. Where does that put this story? Colin Millar is European football writer for the Daily Mirror. He's been covering the story in the Mirror throughout this, joins me now. Journalistically, Colin, this is the story that just keeps on giving. Where does this latest development take us in your view? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, this is the most surreal story in Spanish football for many, many years. And yeah, there's just so many more twists to it, isn't there? And this was a video that was leaked to the Spanish press earlier in the week, and we've subsequently learned that this is actually part of the defence of Luis Rubiales, the Spanish FA president, who's currently suspended by FIFA for 90 days. This video is being used as part of his defence to FIFA for the alleged breaches of his code of conduct. And yeah, I mean, it's another twist. We keep hearing more about this and keep learning more about this, and the fallout just doesn't stop. And obviously, we have the situation with his mother, of course, as well, who has been on hunger strike for the past several days and was actually rushed to hospital last night as she was feeling unwell. Now, we believe that she's been released from hospital this morning, and we're not sure exactly on what her situation is and if she's continuing with her hunger strike or if she's been dissuaded from doing so. But yeah, there's just so many surreal elements to this at the minute, and it's still very, very fast evolving.
The Spanish government have said he should go. The women's team have said they won't want to play, neither will the men's team. But how key are the regional chiefs within the Spanish FA, the fact that they're now turning on Rubiales?
Yeah, I think that's a decisive factor here. I think the position of Rubiales has been untenable for several days. I think the failure to apologise or show contrition straight away was hugely damaging, and then the refusal to step down last week in that extraordinary press conference. But yes, the Spanish FA, who had been sort of publicly supportive, certainly within their press releases, have very firmly now turned this week against him. And there's also huge pressure on the Spanish women's team national coach Jorge Vilda. And don't forget, the Spanish women's team are due to be playing at the end of next month again. And as things stand, they essentially don't have a team because all the players are on strike and their entire coaching staff, aside from the manager, had stepped down. So yeah, it's a very delicate situation.
Well, I think it's very convenient that the focus is back on Jenni Hermoso now, rather than where it should be, which is his act of kissing her at the high point of her career. And I think fundamental to what people are now saying is, oh well, she did this, she did that. There are varied reactions when a woman has been subjected to any form of sexual abuse. And yes, some people are minimising a kiss as being that, but let's call that what it is. It was a non-consensual kiss. She couldn't resist it. And I think, it's often the case that women take a long time to process what's happened to them in a moment. So she might have had hours, she might have months, she might have years. I mean, depending on the seriousness of the sexual abuse she's received. Some women, don't know what has happened to them in the moment, and they may recognise sometime later just how serious, how embarrassing, how humiliating that particular action was. And lots of us, I mean, even if you just fall down in the street, and I know that's completely different, it's an accident, you often laugh, and your embarrassment, your humiliation causes you to laugh about it because you want to make everyone around you feel a little bit better.
But I don't know
later you'll feel the pain.
But I don't know you dance around with a bottle of champagne with your teammates chanting kiss, 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 do you? Or fall, fall, fall.
Right. I mean, I've thought about this a lot overnight and over yesterday afternoon. Sometimes if you are, not forgetting this was the best bit of her career. She was absolutely at the zenith of her career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So she's looking to the mirror of other people around her. So her teammates are enjoying what's happened. It hasn't happened to them. They have not been kissed by this man. So they're jubilant, they're laughing, they're trying. She's playing the clown with them because it is in the moments afterwards where she wants to be happy, she wants to celebrate. She's a strong woman. And so how does she absorb what's happened? Just get on with it. Just throw yourself into this. Just look at how people around you are feeling. Get swept up in that. I can only project, I can only sort of imagine what she was feeling and what she's gone through. But in my mind, that's a very, very possible way that she's dealt with something that later she's seen everywhere. She's seen other people objecting to it and thought, actually, was that okay? And no, it really wasn't. So I think the focus has to go directly back to Luis Rubiales.
Her reaction is totally understandable. I mean, Jean mentioned it. She said you fall down, you stand up, look, see if anybody's watching, and then you laugh and you make a joke of it. You know, that girl was trying to, in my mind, if it was me, I would be trying to process what the hell just happened. I've been running around on a pitch. Yeah. I'm absolutely sweating buckets. Well, and this man in his nice suit comes and hugs me and gives me a kiss when I think my teeth need a brush. And all. Do you know what I mean? There's so many things going on in that split second of what he did.
I'm not seeking to justify Rubiales' behaviour in one fashion. I'm just asking, and I don't know. To my knowledge, I've never been on the receiving end of an unwanted kiss. I don't think I'd be dancing around with a bottle of champagne reenacting it if it hurt me.
This kiss has gone completely over the top. You know, all day Friday, all day Saturday.
Well, no, we're doing it today because of the video that's just emerged.
Yes, I know. And that is why I'm even more incensed after this video. If somebody points out to somebody that happened to you, well, I wouldn't have been happy if that had happened to me. Well, listen,
you wouldn't have been happy. So, say I meet you in Waitrose at Twickenham, or by the subway next to the police station, and I do know Twickenham quite well, and I suddenly recognise you, and I say, Pauline, and I hold your head like that, and that is not the way to welcome someone, is it?
Listen, to be honest,
it's not.
You say that. I think when people go on like this about this little kiss when other things are happening in the world, it was a kiss. It was the Ferrari of the moment. You can see he was happy. The team's just won. She was happy. Everybody.
Is she happy?
You look at the video,
how do you know she's happy?
Well, she certainly didn't look. I'll tell you something. Well, you probably knock me off the radio if I tell you something. Well, but because I phoned in before about this, a couple of years.
Well, you're not going to name someone, are you?
No, I'm not going to name anybody. But listening to this Mark Rowley business all the time, I've had a lot worse happen to me in my own home.
That doesn't make it right, Pauline.
No, it doesn't make it right. But the Metropolitan Police and the independent police complaints people. Well, it was just down to he didn't realise. It was just down to this. It was.
All right. Stay on the line. Because we're going. I want to talk about what this video brings to the equation. Pauline, please stay. Michael's in Maida Vale. So, Michael, what would you say to Pauline and her view on this video and the kiss that preceded it?
Well, my immediate reaction is that it would have been completely innocuous had he not been holding her head from both sides so that she couldn't escape it. Now, if she'd been able to turn her head, she would have got the kiss on the cheek. Nobody would have said about it. It was just high spirits. But the point is that nobody has mentioned the fact that she couldn't escape it because of the way he was holding her.
Pauline, what do you say to Michael? There we are. She had no means of escape. She's effectively gripped.
Listen, she had no means of escape, you say, right?
Yes.
When he let go, she should have slapped him around the face. That would have been if she was so unhappy about it.
Hang on, then that would bring Spain into such. Well, not that they've done particularly well anyway, but.
Well, what's it done this way? Do you know, when people are going on like this about... Do you know, have you ever watched a Western where some guy, he might be a little bit strange, he's come into town, he's gone in the bar
this isn't a Western.
And all of a sudden he must be the bloke who hung my mother or raped my mother on a farm. Next minute, the old town's rounded up and they want the bloke hung, drawn and quartered.
Last word from you on this, Michael?
Well, I'm sorry, but I'm not changing my position. If she had been in a position to escape, it would have been a completely different article.
My perspective is that for somebody to recognise that something inappropriate has happened to them, they have to see themselves as a victim.
Right.
And these women do not see themselves as victims. They have just won the World Cup.
Right.
It takes time to process, and none of her teammates see her as a victim, and they're all trying to protect her from noticing that.
Right. So.
And I think.
Okay, go on, keep going. Yep, sorry. Yep.
I think this is a big part of why people don't talk up about abuse, because nobody wants to see themselves as a victim.
What should the behaviour have been on the bus?
The behaviour on the bus fits how you would expect someone to behave when they're embarrassed or they're just trying to put something in a blind spot and pretend everything's okay. So they're putting this into a blind spot because they can't process it.
What
and they're
do
not
you
victims,
imagine is
so
going?
It doesn't make sense.
What do you imagine is going through the young woman's mind?
About the kiss at that point?
Yeah.
Nothing. It's in her blind spot.
Right. Okay. What then makes it, do you imagine, come forward, and she then formulates the reaction that she did?
So lots of different parts of information that are coming forward, noticing that if that had happened to somebody else, very often we can recognise when something happens to somebody else that it's wrong, but we don't see it as wrong for ourselves because we don't see ourselves as victims. But once you can notice it as a problem for someone else,
yes,
then you can start to say, hang on, what happened to me? Perhaps that wasn't okay.
And lastly, what should happen to Rubiales, the president?
I think he's in his blind spot too. He really doesn't think he's done anything wrong.
Even now? You don't, with all the regional football boards turning against him, you still think?
I don't think. I think he will always think that he was fine.
In my opinion, in my paper, I thought I was shocked. The lady lifts him up. And no, I can't see many people saying this on the radio. She lifts him about 15 inches in the air. Now, to me, if she's in the wrong, then if she thinks he's in the wrong, then she's in the wrong. I wouldn't go up to a man and lift him up. That is close contact. You've got to put your weight bearing to lift a person up. You've got to hold them close contact. To me, it's equal game here. You know, they're both scoring the same. Do you get my opinion or not?
I see what you're saying. I think there's a different dynamic, though, isn't there, between the president of the Football Association and a player, and a man and a woman. That's the dynamic that we have to bring in here.
She started first. She lifted him up. If I went up to a man and lifted him up, what would my husband think? Do you know what I mean?
Well, it depends on the man. I mean, if you were to lift me up, he'd probably be, what an incredibly strong woman. I mean, that would be one hell of a trick.
No one's mentioning this, and it's a very important fact.
Right.
If I was a lawyer, if I was a judge or whatever in a court, I'd say, you lifted him up 15 inches, he kissed you, so you both scoring.
Okay, and lastly, it's interesting you would reference a court, because were this to go to court, I could see that the defence for Rubiales would show the video from the bus, would show the woman reenacting the kiss using a champagne bottle, would show her laughing and cheering, show her teammates cheering kiss, 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 and her chanting president or prezi. So what would that bring?
In my paper, I didn't see the video. In my paper, it showed a photo of her smiling, holding the clip up on her phone. Yeah. And I said to my friend, look at this.
Yes.
I said, this is just, it's all gone out of hand. It's unbelievable with all the worries in the world, you know, all the worries and the horrible things going on. I cannot believe it.
They are sports people, sports women and sports people. They train very hard. They play very hard. You know, they're under tremendous pressure, and they also celebrate differently to regular people. But I think that he was lucky to have kissed that girl, because the other ones might have all ganged up against him. I think that afterwards she might have talked to her teammates, and they were all totally against what happened.
So do you think, therefore, well, nobody knows, but what might have happened is that the player initially thought it was rather humorous, but subsequently her teammates have got around her and they've said, look, really, the president should not be behaving like that, and that's why we are where we are now.
Men-friendly, the team players, I don't think they're so men-friendly in their DNA, that's all.
OK, well, I don't know that really matters, Stefano. Thank you. Arrivederci, Verona, as opposed to Arrivederci, Roma. I don't think it makes a blind bit of difference what the women, whether they date men or women. They can still have a view on what happened to their teammate. I think we're going to... That's a yellow. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's a yellow card. It's not a red, but that's a yellow card because it's utterly irrelevant.
Once they're on the bus, all her teammates are chanting Beso, kiss. And the fact that if I'd seen my friend get taken advantage of, I wouldn't be cheering or chanting or anything like that. I would be probably doing the opposite, you know. So I feel like I can't help getting the hunch that the media or people have called out that it was wrong. Not saying the media, they've obviously jumped onto it, but
I think it's come from the players, hasn't it? Initially,
from the players. But wouldn't you think that if your friend's just been sexually taken advantage of, you wouldn't be cheering and making a joke of it? I can sympathise with her, how she's maybe carry along with it because she's a bit embarrassed, but that all her teammates, from what I've seen on the bus, are cheering along. You'd think they would be quiet. They wouldn't be doing that. So I can't help feeling that I don't know. I think it's been a little blown out of proportion. I'm not saying he shouldn't go. Apparently he's got some history. Yeah. But just on the kiss alone, I think it's slightly blown out of proportion.